Welcome to the Quantum Human Podcast, where we discuss everything related to being a human on the path of empowerment. In this series, we will explore the content of my first book, Quantum Being, in a fun and conversational way. If you like what you hear, grab a copy of my book from an Amazon site near you. Its title is Quantum Being by Hisham Atala.
If you joined us today, it's likely because you feel that pull, that desire to understand something deeper within yourself. You're probably on that path of self-discovery, maybe asking some pretty big questions about who you really are, especially when life throws those tough curveballs. We totally get it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's often right in those moments, isn't it? When we're dealing with pain or loss, or even just the day-to-day grind, that we can get so tangled up in the story of what's happening to us.
So true.
So today, we want to dig into an idea from the book Quantum Being, specifically Chapter 2. It explores this really interesting concept called the resident in the shell.
The resident in the shell.
Yeah.
I like that phrase. It really makes you stop and think, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Who is that person inside? Beyond just, the physical body and what we've been through.
Exactly.
And this chapter, it offers a pretty unique way to look at our identity, sort of peels back some layers. So for you listening, someone who's really aiming for that authentic, best version of yourself, our goal today is really to help examine how you currently see yourself. Maybe offer some fresh angles, potentially spark one of those aha moments that can kind of shift things.
Let's start with something I think we can all relate to, maybe a bit too well sometimes. The stories we tell ourselves about our lives, especially the ones about pain and hardship.
Oh, definitely.
The book uses this example of a man who's just devastated after his sister dies. And that grief, it snowballs into more suffering, depression, losing confidence, all of it.
Yeah.
And the point the book makes is how completely he identified with that story. Like the loss became him.
You can really see how that happens, though. Everything gets filtered through that pain. And the question that just screams out in that kind of situation, I bet many listening have felt this, is why me? Why did this happen?
That feeling of being singled out, yeah, that victim feeling.
Right. It feels so unjust.
And the book suggests something interesting here. It proposes that this sense of victimhood, this feeling that life's just unfairly doing things to us, actually comes from a kind of limited view of who we are.
How so?
Well, if we define ourselves only by those painful events, we sort of trap ourselves, We limit our own awareness of the bigger picture of our identity.
That makes sense. And feeling like a victim, well, that can naturally lead to looking for someone or something to blame, right? The book calls it the blame game.
Precisely. When we feel hurt and powerless, it's almost like a reflex. We look outside ourselves for a reason, someone to hold responsible.
It's human nature, I guess.
It seems to be. In the book's example, this man, deep in his pain, he ends up blaming God, twisting this idea of a loving creator into someone, the book says, merciless, heartless, vengeful, and cruel.
Wow, that's intense. But it really shows how pain can warp our whole perspective.
It absolutely does. And zooming out, the book suggests this outward blaming is pretty common. It hints that maybe, deep down, many of us don't fully buy into the idea that we have a role in what happens in our lives.
It feels safer to point the finger sometimes, doesn't it?
Maybe. Which ties into this whole idea of denying responsibility. The book mentions that common argument, look, how can I be responsible for X, Y, or Z if I wasn't even there? Or I didn't actively do anything?
Right. That feels logical. If my body didn't cause it, wasn't physically present, how can it be on me?
Exactly. It's like our sense of self is just fused to our physical being. Creates these hard lines around what's me and what's not me, and therefore what I might be responsible for.
Yeah.
But here's the interesting twist the book offers. It says that very denial is linked to identifying only with the physical body and its location.
Okay.
The assumption is, if the body wasn't there doing something, then I wasn't there, so no responsibility. The book really pushes back on that, saying it limits our understanding of ourselves. It suggests we might be bigger than just our physical coordinates.
Which brings us right back to that core question, the real heart of this chapter. Who, or maybe what, is actually inside this body, the thing that's experiencing life?
Yeah. It sounds almost ridiculously simple at first.
The immediate answer is just me. It's me.
Of course. Feels totally obvious. But then, the book prods a bit deeper. Who is this me? Is it just the cells, the biology, the physical matter? Or is there something else going on?
And this is where consciousness comes in, right?
That's the term, yeah. The book talks about it as that inner awareness, the part that sees, feels, interprets everything. The observer.
The part listening right now, even.
Exactly. The part processing this conversation. And I think most of us intuitively kind of feel that. We sense there's an inner witness to our lives.
Yeah, we know we're not just robots running a program. There's someone in here experiencing it all.
Right. And it feels comfortable initially to just say, okay, I'm my body, plus this conscious awareness, plus all my memories and experiences. That feels like a pretty complete package.
It does feel like the whole picture of the territory we know.
But then the book gently nudges us again. It asks a question that seems simple, but is actually huge. What is this consciousness? What is this I?
The million-dollar question.
Exactly. The one philosophers and scientists have wrestled with forever. And the book even acknowledges, hey, maybe we feel like we aren't qualified to even think about it.
Yeah, like, who am I to define consciousness?
But the point isn't necessarily to find some final, perfect definition. It's more about the act of asking, opening up that inquiry inside ourselves.
So it's about shaking things up, challenging the assumptions we don't even realize we have about ourselves.
Precisely. Questioning everything, even something as basic seeming as consciousness. Because that's how we uncover those hidden beliefs that might be shaping our reality, maybe holding us back without us knowing.
And the book says this questioning actually allows our inner energy, our dynamism, to expand.
Yes, expansion. That's a really key theme here. It's not just something happening way out in space with galaxies flying apart.
Right. We know the universe is expanding.
The book frames it as a fundamental principle of everything, and it says everything expands, including you, whether you're paying attention to it or not.
That's a big statement, connecting cosmic expansion to us personally.
Right. Yeah, it bridges that gap. It suggests that what we call evolution in biology life, adapting, changing, becoming more complex, is basically the same force. It's expansion manifested in living things.
Like an inherent drive towards growth.
Kind of. And it makes this stark parallel with evolution. A species that don't evolve, that don't adapt or expand their way of being, they perish.
Okay, that sounds a bit intense.
Well, it leads to this very direct line. You either expand or die. Now, hang on, it clarifies this isn't always literal physical death. It's more about the aliveness, the vitality of our inner self.
Right, okay, the inner life.
So then it asks you, the listener, a really crucial question.
Right.
What part of you can expand? Is it just your physical body? I mean, that has limits, right?
Yeah, obviously.
Or is it more likely your consciousness, your awareness, your understanding of who you are?
That feels different. That feels like something with potential.
And for anyone listening who's on that spiritual path, really seeking to grow and become that best self, that question probably hits home, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think so. That desire for inner growth, for a deeper understanding, that is the journey, often.
That drive to expand who we know ourselves to be.
So, as we kind of wrap up this deep dive for today, the main takeaway seems to be this. That journey towards your best self, the person you truly aspire to be.
Yeah.
It really involves seeing yourself as more than just the physical body.
Definitely more than the body and more than just the sum of your past experiences, especially the difficult ones.
It's about having the courage to question those assumptions we carry around about who we are, assumptions we might not even know are there.
And recognizing that there's this inherent potential inside us, this capacity for our consciousness to grow, to expand into a much broader, deeper understanding of ourselves and, well, maybe everything.
Which leaves us with a final thought for you to chew on, something to maybe reflect on later. If expansion really is the nature of the universe, and as the book suggests, the nature of you, what limiting beliefs, what ways you identify yourself might be unknowingly getting in the way of your own conscious expansion?
Yeah.
What might be holding back that journey towards your best self?
Yeah. Just something to consider. Who is the resident living inside your own shell?